The mention of murderers makes one's blood run cold, but the worst is when those murderers are children. It's hard to imagine that a child could be capable of killing, and even more so, of such brutal murders. These are the stories of bloodthirsty murderers in the form of children, who inspire panic and terror. This is the first part, so subscribe and like this video so you don't miss the second part. And let's make 500 subscribers on the channel by the end of the month. This is important for us, thank you. Let's get started. Mary Bell, born May 26, 1957. Mary Bell is one of the most famous girls in British history. In 1968, at age 11, along with her 13-year-old girlfriend Norma, she strangled two boys, ages 4 and 3, 2 months apart. Brian Howe, age 3, was found dead under a mountain of weeds and grass just days after Martin Brown, age 4, died. His hair had been cut, puncture marks were found on his thighs, and his genitals had been partially circumcised. In addition to these mutilations, there was an M mark on his abdomen. When the investigation reached Mary Bell, she gave herself away by detailing a pair of broken scissors that the girl said Brian had been playing with. The scissors became irrefutable evidence of Mary's guilt. Her family background may have influenced Mary's unusual behavior. For a long time she thought she was the daughter of the common criminal, Billy Bell, but to this day her real biological father is unknown. Mary claimed that her mother Betty, who was a prostitute, had forced her to participate in sexual acts with men, particularly her mother's clients, since she was 4 years old. The trial ended, but Mary could not legally be sentenced to prison because she was a minor. The investigation concluded that Mary's confinement in a mental hospital or boarding school for troubled teens was also risky. Therefore, she was held in a special shelter for antisocial children until adulthood and then in a minimally supervised Moore Court prison. During the trial, her mother repeatedly sold Mary's story to the press. The girl was only 11 years old and was not released until 23 years later. She now lives under a different name and surname. The case is well known as the Mary Bell case. John Venables, born August 13, 1982, and Robert Thompson, born August 23, 1982. John Venables and Robert Thompson were sentenced to life imprisonment, even though they were only 10 years old at the time of the murder. Their crime sent shockwaves throughout Britain. On February 12, 1993, the mother of 2-year-old James Bulger left her son at the door of a butcher store, thinking it wouldn't take her long to get back because there was no line at the store. She didn't think it was the last time she would see her son. John and Robert were outside the same store doing their usual things. Stealing from people, shoplifting, stealing things when the clerks turned their backs on them, climbing on chairs in restaurants until they were kicked out. The guys had the idea to kidnap the boy, then make it look like he was lost. John and Robert forcibly dragged the boy onto the railroad tracks, where they threw paint at him, brutally beat him with sticks, bricks, and iron bars, pelted him with rocks, and sexually abused the little boy. Then laid his body on the tracks, hoping that the boy would be run over by a train and his death would be mistaken for an accident. James's body was recovered, but forensic examinations revealed that the boy had died before the train ran over him. Alice Bustamante, born January 28, 1994. A 15-year-old girl killed her younger neighbor and hid the corpse. Elisa Bustamante planned the murder by picking the right time, and on October 21 she attacked the neighbor girl, began strangling her, slit her throat and stabbed her. The police sergeant who questioned the juvenile killer after 9-year-old Elizabeth disappeared said Bustamante confessed to where she hid the murdered 4th grader's body and took officers to the wooded area where the body was located. She said she wanted to know how the murderers felt. George Junius Stinney Jr., born October 21, 1929. Died June 16, 1944. On June 16, 1944, a record was set in the United States as George Stinney, who was 14 years old, became the youngest person ever executed in the United States. George was convicted of killing 2 girls, 11-year-old Betty June Binnicker and 8-year-old Mary Emma Thames, whose bodies were found in a ravine. The girls had severe skull injuries sustained as a result of being struck with a rail crutch, which was later recovered. George confessed to the crime and to initially trying to have sex with Betty, but it eventually turned out to be murder. George was charged with first-degree murder, found guilty, and was sentenced to die in the electric chair. The sentence was carried out in South Carolina and overturned in 2014, 70 years after the execution. Kipland, Kip, Kinkle, August 30, 1982. On May 20, 1998, Kinkle was expelled from school for trying to buy a stolen gun from a classmate. He confessed and was released from the police. At home, his father told him that he would have been sent to boarding school if he had not cooperated with the police. At 3:30 p.m., Kip pulled out his rifle hidden in his parents' room, loaded it, walked into the kitchen, and shot his father. At 6 p.m. his mother returned. Kinkle told her he loved her and shot her, twice in the back of the head, 3 times in the face and once in the heart. He later claimed that he wanted to protect his parents from the embarrassment they might have had because of his legal troubles. On May 21, 1998, Kinkle drove his mother's Ford to school. He wore a long, waterproof coat to conceal his weapons, a hunting knife, a rifle, and 2 handguns, as well as ammunition. He killed 2 students and wounded 24. As he reloaded the gun, several students managed to disarm him. In November 1999, Kinkle was sentenced to 111 years in prison without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing, Kinkle apologized to the court for killing his parents and students at the school. Thank you all for watching. The next part will be out in a day. See you in the next videos.